Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Street Day 330 billion, I think. Hello, everyone. Hope you're well. Today's show, just for the podcast guys, I am going to be painting some terrain and talking to the chat on my own. So if that's exciting for you, good. Twitch chat if you're excited by that. It should be a visual feast, which I'm very much looking forward to. However, obviously, always just me yammering on my own can always be a thing. Hello to everyone in the chat. Get to the chopper. Hello, Tomb King Tristan, -25 where he is. Scott B, -4 where he is. It's not that cold here. Loiber, hope you're well. My dog needs to wear mittens. Oh, bless you. Hey, AOS Pete, Big Dog 6. Hope you're going well in Gothy Whitby. Can anyone tell me sure if a spell has to have a target considered cast? I'm thinking in regards to fate points. No, Big Dog 6. You can just fire spells off into the sky. Hey, Sir Callum, hope you're well. This is almost an art attack angle. I know. I tried to set up an okay angle, right? How are we doing, right? My 3D printer arrived today. What a day. AOS Pete, good luck with that. Hello, Lex. What layer height did you print that terrain at? Wondering how long it takes to print a tower like that. Hello, Diadrin. I hope you're well. Deadwoods, Chris Wallace. I will talk about this now. So I am printing up a tower that I 3D printed. How long did it take? I'm going to say, I don't know the exact hours. Let's say 30 hours in 3 10-hour bricks. Let's call it that. So bottom layer, 10 hours. Top layer, another 10 hours, top layer. So I'm printing, this is on an FDM printer, so like a plastic printer, which was an Ender 3 V2. Yeah, actually, is what it was. And, yeah, like I say, so painting a tower like this, and it cost, in resin, I think it cost something like, let's work it out. What would 300 be? Not a fiver. Let's just call it about £4. £4 to £5 in plastic. Probably not even that. And it's pretty detailed. Like, it's quite nice. It was a layer height at 0.08. There's a couple of little artifacts here you'll see, or you might not see well enough, but effectively sometimes you get an issue with extruding where you'll get a couple of layers missing, like you have here, right? So that's the issue. Yeah, 0.08, and that's the reason. The reason I moved to that actually was because of the wonderful Hawkeyes in the chat. 3D printing game is good here. Thank you. So yeah, this is so for the TSN Arena, I'm doing a dwarven board. This is one of the I'd say medium pieces. Maybe I'd like it to be a little bit bigger. I'll try and fit in this piece. If you guys can see, this is a much larger piece here, which is a watchtower. And then there's some little dwarven hooses here. Little dwarven hoose made out of different stuff. I mean, same, just different printers, but that's why it's different colours. It's all the same. But I'm going to print it up today while I'm talking to you guys. Well, not print it up, paint it up while I'm talking to you guys. I'm using this. This is a black gesso, golden. This has been suggested to me by Owen. And this has come from a suggestion made by Mr. Dark Fantastic Mills himself, kind of the king of 3D printing terrain. He's got an amazing video on YouTube you can go find. So this is the paint I'll be using. It's quite thick, so you do have to be a little bit cautious. I was using like a really large brush, like a painter's brush, and that was way, way too big. So instead, don't dwarves live underground? I was actually thinking that this could be the top of a tower that goes further down, if that makes sense. So like, you know, there's holes underneath, which could be cool to do. But yeah, they do live underground. But anyway, so this stuff is a bit thicker, this opaque acrylic primer. I've never heard of it before. Again, golden black gesso. And I'm just going to paint this because it's really easy to slop on while I'm talking to you guys. And then we go to you guys. How are you all? Hope you're well. I watched his video for his dwarf terrain. Yeah, he's such a smart fella, and he knows what he's doing. One of the annoying things about the 3D printed terrain is that it's also really detailed inside, which I really don't want. I mean, you could, because this terrain's particularly nice. If you wanted to, you could paint it up and then have it always disassemble if you really wanted to. Might be a bit annoying playing at an actual event, but it's cool that you could do that, right? Like, you could take the lid off, put a dude inside. I'm going to paint it in parts at the moment, mainly because I'm not 100% set how much time before COVID ends and we start running events in the arena I'm going to get to detail it up. If it's long enough, it would be quite cool to put little tea lights inside and have them light up. I thought that would be quite fun and make a cool little effect on the board. Probably a bit rubbish in the daytime, but could still be fun. better detail overall at that height, right? Yeah, I think so. I think the detail's okay. Yeah, I would say so. When you look at it really close, you can see that it's been 3D printed, ultimately. Like, you will be able to tell. I don't think you guys can probably tell in this. No, you probably won't be able to tell. But at a distance, at terrain distance, or 40,000 feet, you'll never be able to tell, right? I'm not priming this, or has the primer got the effect? So this is the primer. So again, this golden black gesso is the primer. So instead of doing a spray primer, which would work quite well as well, I did a couple of tests, because this is quite expensive in the UK, or where I ordered it from. It's £15 a tub, so I'm not really sure how long it's going to last. It's 8 fluid ounces, or 237 mil. So I'm not certain how much I'll be able to paint with it. It's quite an expensive primer, I guess. But I guess if you can cover the same that you cover with a can, it's the same. I think the quality is the fact that it's a little bit thicker, and because of that, it will bury itself inside the print lines a little bit more. So you'll end up with a slightly smoother surface, if that makes sense. So it's kind of the opposite of when you want to prime a model, and you obviously want the model to have, what's the right word? Great legs? No, you want the model to have as thin a layer as possible, right? Badger does a really decent 3D print primer spray for the airbrush too, says Rob Kelly. Thanks, bud. Appreciate you. 3D print a Varanspire board then. That could be fun to do. Yes. Suggestions in the chat. So I'm going to give you my current themes and ask you guys how you all are. Hey, Colonel Cabbage. Please use electric tea lights. Make it from a chaplain who burns way too many candles and other stuff. Starl, I can absolutely do that. So my question to you guys actually is, I'll tell you about the terrain that I've already, or the boards I've already done. So I've done like an elven forest board. That's I've done a town board. So just, like regular kind of buildings and whatnot, which is always fun and something I've always wanted to do. That was really fun. I've actually got a resin printed, this is a bit of a secret, but if you guys just keep it between us. I've resin printed a baker with a little bakery and some loaves of bread and a little cart. So I'm going to make a piece of terrain that's a little like scene, I think is going to be the right way to describe it. Oh, this is going on quite nice, actually. So yeah, I'm going to do a little scene inside the town, which will be quite fun. So that's going to be Ollie's Bakery, I think it's going to be called. Oh, left the noise on. Squinty Hugh, thanks for subscribing. You got a bigger brush, Robert? No, I do not have a bigger brush. I used a bigger brush, and unfortunately, it really wrecked a bit of detail on one of the houses. So I won't be using a bigger brush, and instead, I'm going to be using this brush and just using a bit of elbow grease is going to be the plan. So we've got the town board. Very excited about that. I have an elven / forest board, but it's made of like elven towers, which are very cool. Very excited about the elven towers. And then I have done a dwarf board. It's not quite finished yet. There's still some pieces printed. So dwarf board. And the next board I'm going to do is going to be a mushroom grotto. Or it's going to be a field of mushrooms. There's going to be mushroom forests, mushroom land, all that other stuff. Super excited about doing that. I think that's going to be really fun, super fun for the destruction players to play in. So having all these really awesome themes is really fun. And knowing all these designs are out there and giving a bit of backstory to the different boards is something I'm very excited about, because I'm actually going to flex my creative juices. Oh, by the way, if anyone's a good writer and would like to collab, please do let me know, because I'm going to try and write some backstory for the little settings and the boards, and give them a bit of a tale. So even if you're playing in a match play setting, and match play settings are also narrative, we can't ever forget that. Then you'll have a little bit of a story, which will be fun. So, let's say you've lost a couple of matches and you're giving up hope or whatever, you can just end up telling yourself a little bit of story on this awesome looking board. That's the scheme. When doing AOS terrain, do you pay much mind to line of sight blocking? Yes, actually I do. So if you see, so this one, it would be about the smallest, this piece of terrain here would be about the smallest that I'd probably do. To give you some context, let's get a Plague Marine who's right in front of me. Plague Marines, he's quite a tall Plague Marine. Plague Marine, you could hide behind this, you could do a couple of dudes, but most importantly, maybe a character. I think you could hide behind this piece of terrain, which would be fun. So, yeah, definitely. Whereas the other pieces, for instance, this massive piece that doesn't even make it in, can't even see, this would hide Probably wouldn't hide a Bloodthirster because of the wings. Oh, you guys can see there. Wouldn't hide a Bloodthirster because of the wings, but you could hide like something decent-ish against those 2 bottom floors. So, yeah, I do give it some consideration. I do think it is important. I think also it's probably better. I don't know what you guys think. Mostin Powers, please tell me I have an airbrush. I do have an airbrush. I'm not very good with an airbrush. Yeah. If you guys are painfully not enjoying me sticking this Glesso on, I promise you, I've tried a bigger brush, and it's too thick, and it wrecks the detail. And then what's the point in doing nice 3D printed terrain if we wreck the detail, is the answer. I actually have a bunch of Tabletop World stuff lying around. Mid-work paint along it is. Go on, Rob Kelly. Tabletop World stuff is beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. So yeah, I think when you're designing Age of Sigmar boards specifically, so when I did the Super Series terrain, one of the things that I thought was really important was less about producing terrain that provided cover, so that you could like get an additional +1 save, because ultimately, actually, that's not that important, because the game is pretty much pointed around there being no cover, if that makes sense. So like a unit going from a 4-up save to a 3-up save is a significant increase. Some books don't have the ability to do that. Some books do, but it costs you CP or a spell or an ability or whatever it might be, or you can't move, or, you know, whatever. So I'm not too bothered about trying to provide terrain that's like a flat surface that you can get cover from. Maybe for characters, so little steps or something else would be fun. I mainly think of terrain for Age of Sigmar, and this is just me, and if anyone doesn't agree, I would love to hear why in the chat, because I think it's still a great conversation to have. I mainly think of terrain in Age of Sigmar as blocking movement. So I make all of my terrain in my games when I play it, and also when I run events, and when I will be doing events in the future, I make it so that it's impassable, unless I intentionally design a piece of terrain. You know, I find some sort of like flat hill or something that isn't, and I'm like, look, this isn't impassable, you know, like a field of wheat or something fun to run through. And the reason that I do that is because I think actually it makes the game far, far more interesting, being able to not move stuff around. It negatively affects some units. Let's talk about the Mega Boss and War Crush and his stupidly big base. Negatively affects him, but he does have the fly keyword and the ability to move twice, so he's kind of in a better place than some other units. Some other units really struggle with that, but it also makes fly keyword better without allowing fly units to do the janky thing like move up a building. You guys have heard me talk about this before a lot, because it's just a good topic, which I really hope Age of Sigmar 3 solves, if I'm honest. Tauron more terrain should be impassable, yes. If not, we must play with 2D terrains as cold traps. I agree with that. That works. Yeah. I think, yeah, making terrain count is really important. And really, because there's no one really pushing this conversation, I don't think. I kind of feel like I've taken up that torch as to be something that's really important. Which is, that conversation is what led to me talking about with James about getting a 3D printer, because then we could design, like, we could pick out the terrain that we wanted at the right sizes that we wanted, which has led to me being where I am now. So really, it's the conversation about terrain that's taken me to the 3D printing place. So yeah, if you wanted to do a border terrain on a 3D printer, you're not going to do it quickly. It takes ages. It takes ages and ages and ages. Especially if you want it to look really nice. So the layer height, which is, as you know, 3D printers work, they print a line, and then a line on top, then a line on top, and a line on top. You can make those layer heights thicker, but you really reduce the quality. So the thinner you make the layer height, the better the quality. However, the longer then that takes. So we're in a good position at the minute that we've got enough printers that we're almost defeating that problem and hopefully kicking out some really quality terrain, because that's kind of the goal, isn't it? If it's going to be on stream tables, or, you know, people want to play with it at home anyway. Like, Age of Sigmar terrain around the world has varied from amazing quality to just playable. And I think that's okay. You know, if you guys have only got what you've got, then I get it and I appreciate it. I hear you. I feel very fortunate I've been able to do this thanks to only the generosity of the Twitch chat and also selling some armies. So it's been the main focus. Yeah. And this stuff dries quite quick, by the way. And you can't see. I'll put up a picture up on Twitter. There is still some lines here. Because it just didn't. I mean, all of this printed lovely, all of this printed lovely, all of this printed lovely, and just here it didn't print very nice. So I don't really have a solution to that. I might just end up fucking it up and sticking some flock on there, or some plants, or I don't know what I'm going to do. Something like that. You know, like, and try and like make sure that detail looks fine. But whatever. Yeah, put texture paint on it. Texture paint's another good example as well. My friend Laura Pegastix over on Twitter, she uses, before she base layers her stuff, she ends up putting a load of like texture onto the model before she even bases it, which I find fascinating, or like base coats it, which I think is really interesting, and she ends up with like some quite grimy looking effects, which look really awesome. So, are they sticking down all right, Rob? Hawkeye, they're sticking down fine, buddy. They're sticking down super well. There's no drama there. I have a bit of lifting on one printer, but that's fine. I've sorted that out. Yeah, I appreciate that. You could acetone it. You could. To try and smooth it off. That's another option. You could also try and sand it and that smooth it off. The main issue is then it's really a problem of like where it's filled. If I took the time, I could gap fill it. It's loads of teeny bricks and it's really not that big a drama. I don't think people will see it that much or care that much. Like, because from here, this distance, I can't see. Like, I have to be quite close. Maybe that's because I'm blind. Who knows? Treadwords, I'm genuinely a bit in love with Laura. Me too. Peggy 6 is great. You could add a bit of green stuff before priming. Malka could do that. You could use car body spray, which fills gaps. Born Again Manchild, I did not know that. That's fun. My major issue is I'm taking advice off the pros, and as I understand it, Dark Fantastic Mills is the pro for this. So he's my man. He's suggested using this Glasso stuff, and I'm on it. And I'm super okay with that. I'm happy. I bought the bottle. I bought the tub, and I'm on it. I'm on it, basically. I think part of the reason for AOS terrain rules is to keep the rules simple for ease of access. I think the terrain rules are more complicated for ease of access than if you just said you can't stand or stand halfway up that building. I think that makes more sense in the real world, or in the game, than the way the rules actually work, where I could teleport halfway up a building and stand there. I don't think Dark Fantastic Mills sells template files. He produces and prints them. Gary, who runs Dark Fantastic Mills, is an amazing human being. He's been nothing but supportive of us doing live coverage anytime we've ever done it. He's a beautiful man to talk to. He's got a great silky voice. He's a good guy, works really hard, produces really lovely stuff. I can't go on about him enough, really. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. And if you guys want to go over to his web store and see the stuff, like if you don't have a 3D printer and you want some really nice 3D printed stuff, he would be a suggestion of mine of someone to go and check out. Just had a World Eaters conversion set delivered. Can't tell if it's pitted resin is a shit print or it's meant to be battle damage, says Collaroo. Oh, God. That's the worst. It's battle damage now, Collaroo. How does that sound? There's something called 3D Gloop that you can get. It fills gaps. Oh, Hawkeye. If you drop me a message about that, I'd be very interested to see that. That's fun. Yeah, this isn't quick at the end of the day, ladies and gents. And maybe there is a better answer here. I'm going off what I know so far. But it's looking quite nice. I quite like the smooth. It's a very matte, dry paint with this Glasso stuff when it finishes, when it dries up, which is quite nice. It looks really smooth and lovely, which I'm really enjoying. So it's really nice. I saw this video Vince did, sprue in glass with plastic cement. He uses it for separation lines on plastic models. I'm curious to see if it's a cheap wave version of liquid green stuff for gap filling with a paintbrush. Mandollies, I think it might be. Also really nice to see. I've seen you pop in the chat a few times recently, and I hope you're doing really well. It'd be lovely to see you again at some point. Me and Mandollies have hung out in Australia and here, and it's been a delight both times. Pete, I agree with the lack of terrain rules leads to more weird and feel-bad situations for new players than having an extra page of rules or two. I agree. And ultimately, I think the setting is really important as well. Also, Age of Sigmar has been, for a very long time, if you've played matched play, I'll be very specific about this, and if you play competitive match play even more, has almost always used mystical terrain. So that would be terrain that has certain properties, be it mystical or commanding, or a volcano like we saw in the live match the other day. So it really has been a game where the scenery has had an effect, but the dimensions of the scenery had less of an effect than the rules of the scenery. And the rules of the scenery were always there, always something that we used. And so it's, although, kind of quick straw poll in the chat, I tend to find it being used less now. I don't know if that's the case. Twitch chat, you got any vibe on that? Anyone not using it as much as they once did? Let me see what you guys think. I think terrain is in AOS is probably the biggest opportunity in the game at the moment as Moss in power. I agree with you. Dreadwood says he's ace. Talking about Gary, I was introduced in person to him in a weird way. He was a car crash at Bobo that I chased the other car occupants down. Yeah, I know that. Hello, Owen. Hope you're well. I finished a 3D print today, a Necromunda terrain tile, 6-9 print, less than 1 millimeter of filament left on the roll after the scariest moment of the year. That is scary, Tommy. Hey, Captain Brian Blood, steerage. The terrain reminds me of the big round tower with all the levels Games Workshop used to make. Yeah, man, like, this stuff is... Okay, so as an example, quickly put this down so if you guys can see here, this observatory, huge. Lovely detail, it's got a cool little set of stairs here. There is an additional telescope to stick on it. In material cost, obviously you've got to buy a printer. Material cost, though, this was a tenner. Like, it's heavy as shit. Like, it's thick. And it's 10 quid's not cheap, right? But it's cheap for, like, a quality huge piece of terrain. And there's and those Games Workshop towers, yes, they were beautiful. Don't get me wrong, they look lovely. But fuck me, they were like 100 quid? Maybe more? 140 quid? Like, just doesn't make any sense, to be honest. Like, and, you know, I don't want to get into Games Workshop pricing, yeah, and I don't want to get into Games Workshop pricing and the 3D conversation. It's not really what I'm here for. I just want to show you these cool-ass models and have a chat with you all. But yeah, anyway, it's, like, I could never afford that. Ever. But I could print for £140 of plastic, I could print 2 boards worth of terrain that good. Is kind of the scheme. What brand of I am using? An Ender Mark 3 V2, but this was on an Ender 3 Pro. This is an Ender 3 Pro, Ender 3 2 Pro, Ender 3 2 Pro, which are dirt cheap, like 240 quid at the minute, which is dirt cheap, like for what you can do. You're gonna have to spend a lot of time on them, a lot of patience. You're going to have to learn a lot of things and watch a lot of YouTube videos. They're going to always fuck around with you and piss you off. So just be conscious of that. So that's really important, but they're brilliant. A Realm of Battle set was around 600 quid. Fuck me. That's so much money. Oh my god, what I used to spend on the hobby blows my mind. That's on me though. That's on me being a cavalier idiot. I used them less. The training rules are Byzantine, and I don't feel like they affect the game as they says Real Polygeek. I think that's fair. Hello, it's me, Doom Monkeys. Thank you for subscribing. Hi, Rob, you're doing a great job there. I will have your show you next week. What you did to the crab model you gave me. Oh, nice. Oh, love you. That's Scott. He's downstairs. He's great. Let me see what you guys say in the chat. I've never seen a Realm Battle board outside a Warhammer shop. Me too. Rarely have I seen them. Thank you, Fake Pegasus, for following us. I wish I could 3D print new fascias and gutters for my house. Adulting is shit, says Stu Flynn, buddy. Oh, buddy, I'm so sorry. You'll get there. I'm a bit worried about leaving this open, whether or not it'll dry up, but there's only one way to find out, so crack on and do this. I've almost done this one now. It's nice. Look at that. Oh, a little bit there, but I'm getting paint all over my fingers now, so I'll just leave that. Morning, everyone. I don't think I would have learned 3D print if my manufacturing industry hadn't been shifting to it, and now I'm just looking at excuse both home and professionals of really polygeek. Yeah, I don't want this to be a conversation about 3D print. It's hard to get away from the conversation. At the moment, especially for terrain. But, you know, how many people... I mean, do you think... Question to you guys, how many of you guys have set up and podcast guys, always drop me a message if this is true as well. How many of you guys have ended up building a board at home to play with since lockdown began? have you guys been interested in it? Thought, yeah, this like, I'm going to want some sort of terrain at home, like, because when lockdown opens up a bit, maybe I'll be able to play with a couple of friends at my house. Diadrin, you have. That makes sense. Have you had to throw play chicken with the end of the filament reel yet, Rob? Hawkeye, loads of times, buddy. Loads of times. I would buy one if they still made the older one. I don't really like having to get one with big cogs and round stuff. That's fair. No terrain rules added, just the right amount of new rules to make it a bit too much of a bother, and I used them less since GHB 2020. Tristan, I think I agree with that as well. I've debated, I got a lot of room from it in my new flat, Collaroo. There you go. Like, kind of, it's kind of nice. You get your mate over, you have a couple of beers, you get a pizza, and you got your board at home to play on. That's super nice. Although, another good suggestion is if you do have a local gaming club that you like to go to, if you want to help them out over lockdown, you want something to paint that's a bit mindless, which is terrain, you could always drop them a message. Another good suggestion as well, I think. Drop your local gaming club a message, say, hey lads, you got any terrain you want painted up for when lockdown opens up? That sort of jazz. Those guys would love that, because they're staring down the barrel of the gun and loads of terrain they need to paint and other stuff all the time. So if you do love your local gaming club and want to support them, and you haven't got much cash, but you got a bit of time, they would love that. Pretty certain that's a thing. Right. Apologies, everyone. Let me just grab a water. Let me see what he's saying. Militant Snowflake cleaned out a room in the basement, took a Warhammer cave. Yeah, baby. That sounds cool. .com. I started an Orc terrain table back in September, all MDF and HDF. Not especially expensive, but still haven't finished it yet. It takes a while, right? I had 2 boards at home, says Dark Design, built previous to Nurgle, mostly because some of the people in my local group are shits and lets me invite the cool ones over. That's the other thing, right? You got a local gaming club, you want to build your own little place. It's a nice little way of doing it. Okay, let me just grab some bits out there. This one's cool because it's got a little dwarven face on it. Can you see? Oh, that's cool. I love that little feature. This is going to be fun. If I had the energy, which I do not, I would have obviously made a Chaos Dwarf board to upset Nathan, but I didn't, so I won't. Oh no. Also, you'll notice I haven't painted the inside of this building, nor shall I probably. That's because I'm being economical with the money on the paint, not because I'm lazy. How dare you? How dare you, Twitch chat? Matty4P. I tried to join the website but never got a verification email. I tried a few times last 2 days and tried to re-register and says email already used. All right, Matty4P, I will get on that after the show and try and sort that out for you. Apologies about that. But we'll get that sorted. Just had a guy decide to start our first local club. He's retrofitting a barn for it right now. Just finished an installation this week. Wicked, Tristan. That's wicked. That is really good. Tristan in a pretty remote part of Canada. So that's awesome that there's going to be a gaming club. I think gaming clubs help inspire more people to, you generally get a larger player base in your local area if you have a gaming club. And I think that's excellent, So that's really awesome. Malez, my other half just bought me a table, and Matt for Xmas just finished making all the terrain. Yeah, baby. Hey, Speckles. Hope you're well, babe. There you go. Scrivo's going to help you out. You fucking babe, Scrivo. Appreciate you so much. With all this great 3D print in terrain, the quality of army display boards is going to go to the next level this time next year. I absolutely agree with that. That's a really good point. And one of the cool things you could do, Lee, is you could not only do yourself some terrain, but like you say, do a display board at the same time. I think one of the other really fun aspects is obviously having basing materials for armies as well. You could do some really fun conversions and some fun basing materials that change the shape of your base, especially on some of the larger models. So I think that's a great opportunity there, and I think that's really cool. Like we talked about on the show, on Monday, doing those objective markers. So doing yourself some cool-ass objective markers for your army. I think that's really important as well. So yeah, quality, the standard of the hobby quality should be really high, which is super nice, I think. Is that why he still plays Tomb King's Word hasn't reached the frontier yet? Basically, that's exactly why. Hello everyone, by the way. I hope you're all well. Thank you for tuning in. I really, really appreciate that. I'm just painting up some 3D printed terrain for the arena, and I am taking any questions if you want to drop any questions in, or there's anything you want to bring up. Bit of downtime. I had a bit of an afternoon/evening off yesterday, which was really nice. Ended up with a wicked migraine, actually, so I think I've just been overdoing it the past few weeks. But very excited, Age of Sigmar-wise, for the weekend. Very excited for the weekend, because obviously the SNES release is on the way, and of course, also the Daughters of Cain release. 2 battle tomes of information is super fun. Loads for me to get my crunchy teeth into next week. So very much looking forward to that. So that's going to be a fun little element. I don't mind a double battle tome release when there's no events, really. I mean, there are events, actually, all around the world. That's not fair. But I'm not too stressed. I need to upgrade my basing game from stealing sawdust from the job site and painting Goblin Green. No, you do not, real Polygeek. You carry on. That is a great basing technique, and I love it. Yeah, stuff you find at your local site is perfect. I don't know how many people nick leaves or sand from the beach or whatever. I don't think we'll ever run out, but Speckles, I will do that. That sounds fun. Non-3D printing question, Tommy Butters. Of the ways to support Patreon Twitch sub, who takes the smallest cut so you get the most money? Patreon is the one that takes the smallest cut. Unless we hit partner on Twitch. So then they take less of a cut, which is super nice. But that's not really the main issue. I really would like to be a partner on Twitch, because you then get some awesome new emotes and some little functionality stuff, which is super fun. And that would just be cool. And also it'd be cool to say you're a Twitch partner. Having done this for nearly 3 years, that'd be a fun little thing to add into the ongoing. I feel like I'm doing better. As time goes on. Like, I'm super happy when anyone turns up to watch the stream. It's lovely of you. I hope it's entertaining and enjoyable for everyone. Also, same as the podcast. Like, I love it when we see the podcast numbers go up, or we see some reviews, or any of that stuff. It's always really, like, rewarding and uplifting. But ultimately, if that's not something that we achieve, that's not something we achieve. Like, that's fine. As long as you guys are happy, and I'm doing something worthwhile that you enjoy, that's all I really give a shit about at the end of the day. So, yeah. Question might be silly. So SNES gets a whole new book, right? Not just the Mortal Edition. Yes, Desert Sketch. Not a silly question. No questions ever are. Yeah, they get a whole new book. So it's going to have the Mortals and the Demons all inside it. So maybe you'll just get some copy and paste stuff from the old book, which would be really funny to see if they accidentally copy and paste the 2+ Locus over. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, the Greater Demons have the ability to make you fight last on a 2+. But it got FAQ to a 3+, but I'm so excited for them to have left it in there again. On the copy and paste mission, but that's just me being a wanker. Has much changed from what we know of the Daughters of Cain preview? Not really. Like, there's not, the preview stuff is never enough information. Ultimately, like, points are always super important. Wholly within buffs, a sight word change. Like, I mean, Age of Sigmar battle tomes can be, like, all over the shop sometimes. Hopefully we get some really nice clarity. One of the things I always like to do when I'm looking at the battle tomes is kind of, like, look for marked trends. So, like, oh, look, they're doing a lot of Wholly Within now. That's really nice. You know, they're really clarifying in the wording that this only applies in this phase. That's really nice, too. And see them improve as game writers and game developers. And then sometimes it honestly feels like with one book, because there's generally an upward trend. To respect the system, there's generally an upward trend of quality. Generally. However, sometimes it just feels like they skip the QA day or whatever. And a whole book comes out, it's just a mess. Super weird. Or it's like the whole book and then a page. It's very odd. But whatever. New SNES book is kind of insulting to every other faction waiting, says Desert Sketch. Yeah, I know. Like, I'm with you all. Like, I kind of revel in the stupidity of most of the decision-making now at this stage. I don't get too... I mean, I've been bent out of shape of it so much that whatever. Like, you know, you'll just end up with some narrative chud podcaster, like, taking swipes at you because they don't understand anything and all they do is read the story. So there's no point getting too bent out of shape. Just kind of, like, roll with it and see what happens. I mean, Beast of Chaos, bless their hearts. Nighthorn, even. I mean, Beast of Chaos, like, they're old sculpts, no real new models, obviously, apart from the Warcry warbands and all the other stuff, which looks sweet. But Nighthawk was a whole range that basically just got released then dicked on day one. I mean, they have had support in the way of the Legion of Grief update, where they were like, yeah, we recognize that we created a faction and then we just made it better in another faction. And also we made that faction rubbish. But, like, they need some love, right? My good friend is getting me a Morgul for Valentine's Day. Pretty excited for that. I guess I need to get her a good gift now. Volson, right, you do. That would be lovely. I think Games Workshop got burned by the kickback over Slanesh 1.0, so I think the book will be pretty moderate as they got overcautious. But due to community self-comp, they got away with Daughters of Cain. So I think they will end up being bonkers book. Interesting take. Hey, I'm sitting on so much Nighthawk from Mortal Realms magazine. Oh my god, the stonks. It's like you're sat on an oil reserve waiting for the market to explode. That's what you're on. Coloru is just quick PSA for all of my bros and ladies in the chat. Almost Valentine's Day. Just something to remember. It's on Sunday. So still plenty of time to get your orders in from wherever you need to do what you need. I will also eventually buy and paint a Beast Chaos Army. I can give them Marcus Nash after all. War Chebby, 60-point Hag Queens. I'm with you. Let's go. Daughters of Cain. I don't know, man. Like, I think it's an interesting conversation to see where some of these armies are going to sit ultimately, because one of the fascinating conversations is, and I don't want to get into the gag of it. I mean, fuck it, we can get into the gag of it if you want. Like, normally when they've written these battle tomes, there's been like a year, let's say a year lead time on them. A year, right? So they kind of, if you look at when they release a new book, like there'll be some, like shooting will be really prevalent, let's say, and then a year later there'll be a book with some anti-shooting tech. Right? Because they kind of respond to it, but it's such a delay. And the meta's generally moved on, which happens a lot. So I'm interested to see where the no data battle tomes that we get released in. I mean, we're coming into it now. Like the stream streak's almost a year old. Lockdown's almost a year old. Generally, I know some places like Italy started a little bit earlier, but for England and for Games Workshop, about a year, almost there. So we're almost at the point where we're going to be getting battle tomes. We're definitely going to be getting a new edition with points changes and rules changes based on no data. Obviously, they've not had data anyway, but like none that they pay attention to at all, apparently. So fascinating how that's going to look. Fascinating how the points when they're just done into a vacuum are going to look for me. I think they're going to go away from witch elves. Now they know everyone is sitting on 100 of them. No sales on that, says Tommy Butters. Tommy Butters, they honestly don't do rules for sales. Otherwise, they wouldn't just, like, they don't do that. They're just, there's a long conversation there, but I'll just say that they're too stupid to do that, and that's the easiest way of saying it. Like, there's a long convo in there, but I don't want to have it. But yeah. I reckon the little slave fella in the Blissbarb Archers box might be an ad on that cost points. Torian, I think that's a good idea. I think that's true. I think also the 5-point, the 115.25 unit, whatever it was, for the Warcry box, those guys that only cost 125 as opposed to costing 100 and like a fat round number like 120. I think we're going to be seeing some unit point upgrades, all sorts of shenanigans in later Age of Sigmar, mainly because they've got like still a bunch of old world dudes that are in their ear, and they're like, yeah, make it so that a unit upgrade costs like an extra 5 points or something super granular and super rubbish. So I hope that's not the case, but I reckon it will be. But whatever, who cares? A bit of advice, Valentine's, don't do swaps for toy soldiers. My girlfriend got me a Mega Gargant for anniversary, and I agreed to pay her haircut. Fuck me, haircuts are expensive. They are. A good blowout. Oof. Set you back some cash, mate. I was going to point that a minute ago, but my supervisor came in. You sound like a man of the future. I like that. What did Nikos say? What did he say? Scroll up in the chat here. No data. Australia's running events. Oh wait, goes to pay attention to Australia. You're right though, but I'd argue that's a better place to be. I don't want that granular. No, none of us do. None of us do. No one ever wants to know how many eels are you taking. It's 3 or 6. No one wants to ask no one's like, you taking 4? Because then you'll just have more fucking people showing that I've come up with a really innovative eel lists. I actually take 4 units of 4 eels. I don't run them in 3s. And you're like, I don't want to have this conversation or listen to you. Immediate block. Immediate block. I don't need to hear this. Man, this looking sweet. Quick tip as well with this 3D printed stuff, which is something I wish I'd tipped myself a month or so ago. If you are buying a bunch of PLA, so that's the plastic stuff, I get mine from 3D. I don't know. I'll have to go find it, but it's the one I liked. I did get one that was shit, so I stopped buying that. However, buy not black, because if you're going to stick this Glesso stuff all over it, obviously, painting black on black is a nightmare, and you won't see where you haven't painted. So I've got some buildings like that, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm in some real trouble there. So anyway, that's going to take me a week and a half to paint those other buildings. Yeah, man, that was pretty sweet. Happy with this. Looking good, looking good. Can't wait to get some paint on these bad boys. I'm going to match them to some mats. Use rainbow filament, go all the way. Yeah. Tommy Butters has got a suggestion for some filament as well over in Australia. Different countries, different filaments, different qualities. It's a really complicated conversation sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, fucking stick it in and bang it on. That's the kind of thing. But, you know, the more time you spend on it, the better quality prints you'll end up getting. And that's a bonus because you obviously we want good quality, right? We want good quality terrain all around the world. That is good, sweet ass. Have I tried graffiti spray paints? No, I haven't yet. I would like to order some, but money is really an issue. So at the minute, I'm mainly spending the money on the actual PLA to print, and then I'm going to get to the painting the stuff as an issue later. So I don't really have money to experiment at the minute, but that will be something I'll do in the future. As this stuff gets on, I'm mainly focused on just achieving the goal of getting some really nice terrain for the gaming venue. So as soon as we open, we can hold events, we can live stream those events, and then hopefully that produces enough money that we can just start like getting a bit fancy. But at the minute, it's bare bones and jam sandwiches. So, but I want to eventually. Apparently, that's the future. That's the way to go. So yeah, that's a problem for future, Rob. Agreed. Have I tried the magnetic beds which can peel off? Yes, I much prefer the glass beds because they keep a more consistent heat level across the bed, and that's good because you sometimes end up with the model lifting off the bed, which is a bit of a drama. Not sticking, that's a different conversation. What you end up with is a warping in some situations, so I much prefer the glass beds. So if you get the opportunity to upgrade or get a glass bed printer, that's also a good system to have. Owen, when you have a minute to talk about graffiti pens and misspent youth, oh my god, yes, done, deal. I'm in for that chat. Stick it on, bang it on. My wife says that, Torian. You got 10 minutes, get the job done and then get out. That's what I want from you. 3D printing, it says Tommy Butters, is pretty good for Australians due to our proximity to Asia. Keeps costs down, I found. Yeah. Also, like, the price conversion for some of those models for you guys over there, man, fuck that. Like, there's being into the hobby and knowing it's expensive, and then there's like, I'm just getting ripped off. Not about that life. Anyway. So yeah, I'm excited about Daughters of Cain. I'm very excited about the Slash Army, because I'd very much like to read the narrative. And I know this can sound really jerky, but one of the things I'd really like to see is what they do with they look very like mercantile, like there's some story to how they produce all the stuff. I'm expecting some sort of Cities of Chaos at some point. A Cities of Chaos book would be super awesome. I'm expecting a Cities of everything, right? Cities of Death, maybe even like Cities of Destruction. I know that really goes against their whole vibe, where it's just destroy everything all the time. But, you know, the Loon Shrines are built on kind of a network of the Dankhold, and the Dankhold's like a place. There are places for destruction, and I would really like to read about those. get into like the nitty gritty of the story. I think there'll be some really exciting stories that will come out from Black Library in that situation as well. So I think that would be really good. Oh, Wavy Raven, thank you for subscribing for the first time. Oh man, that's awesome of you. Thanks. We're chaos, but we're also grand civilization. I'm not going to explain this crap. I love that Gluttos has 5 different buffs depending on turn and what he's eating, says Tubbs. Tubbs, is that true? Do we know that to be the case? I haven't read that yet. I didn't know if that's come out today. That's fun. Destruction just want to destroy everyone else's shit. They make their own. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, so maybe they do have their own little place, and then they destroy everyone else's shit. I think that's fair. Do we think we'll get a Soulblight book with the new Vamps? We 100% think we're going to get a new Soulblight book with the Vamps. Maybe it won't be this year, but I think it'll be this year. I think there'll be a whole Soulblight range with Vamps. Absolutely think that's going to be a thing. 100%. Yeah. The Grave Wardens is the faction, I think. Yeah. Well, and that's how we know. It's that simple. We already know that that's going to happen. Let me quickly take you through the whys. So some of the models that we saw leaked were models that were part of the the Warhammer Quest book. So, the Warhammer Quest box. So we saw these leaked models and we're like, cool. However, what we saw was a clan pack. So that's a character model inside of a bit of plastic. And that had Soulblight Gravelords written on it. And there is no Soulblight Gravelords faction at the moment. So the simple thing is that is going to be a faction. And if that's going to be a faction, and that's obviously a new model from that faction, we are getting a whole book on it. It's that simple. So, Vampire book, go. Confirm to your friends. It's going to be very exciting. And I'm looking forward to it. Because the models so far, I think, look amazing. So, yeah. Gravelords will be part of AOS 3 release as War Chevy. I don't think I agree with that. I'm just going to put that out there. I think that they're going to come before Age of Sigmar 3. That's my hot take. And the reason for that is that they're dumping 2 books on us at once right now. I think we're going to have a massive accelerated timeline for Age of Sigmar 3. No messing around. We're going to get book after book after book, and it's going to be harsh on what it's. Thanks for following Mavor. I think it's a sub-faction of Legion of the Gaseous Blue Diamonds. I think it'll be its own faction, is what I think it'll be, with its own bloodlines. I think you'll have vampires with their own bloodlines. I think it'll be a huge release. I think we'll see loads of models. I think maybe they'll split it up like they have with the Lumineth and Sinesh, but I think eventually it's going to be a massive faction. Massive, massive, massive. What changes do you expect for Age of Sigmar 3, and what do you want? Oof, 2 very different things. Key points. I obviously don't want the priority role to go away. So that's my first and foremost. It's integral to the game. It's integral to how we play. It's exciting. It's interesting. It's a skill-based mechanic which you can use very well. So very much enjoying that. Looking forward to that staying, and I hope it does. The boards will be smaller. That's a fact. You can put a bet on that and take that bet to a shop. So I would like to. How do I feel about that? I think that's bad for the game, but I also think teleporting is bad for the game. So and they've already it's kind of like bolting the horse. Bolting the fence after the horse is gone, so that's fine. That's not going to be a drama. What else? I would like to see command abilities go back to being just on your general. Old school Age of Sigmar 1 play. But that's because I'm obviously a boomer on that front. I'd hate smaller boards. I'd hate smaller boards as well, but it's going to happen, so I've resigned myself to the fact it's going to happen, and then it's not as bad, right? 6x4 stonk table stocks are way down. I agree. Tommy Butters, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate you loads. Apparently, Spanish tokens they show on the pre-order show turn 1 and 5 for Gluttos, which translates from Spanish is appetizer and digestion. I assume the middle 3 will be the start, main and dessert. Oh, that's fun. A food-based faction to rival the ogres is going to be a fun little thing. With narrative in AOS, what do we think AOS 3 beginner box? Anyway. Can't answer that question because I know the answer. So, I'm expecting Gavspawn command ability to be killed. It's the only good thing in the book, and that cannot stand. So, agreed with that. I don't invest in realm battle boards. Those stonks are going to 0. They are. Maybe they can use Realm of Battle boards to kind of like shore up shorelines from like erosion or something. That's probably the only thing that they're viable for now. Or maybe use them to build homeless shelter. So I don't know what you could do with them. Something useful as opposed to throwing it in a skip or bin, I think would be the one. 44 by 60 boards. They're going to be the same size as the 40k boards, which is 4460. But they will, of course, make them only suggested board size. And without there being too many Age of Sigmar tournament organizers who listen to them, I'm going to be really interested to see on the pickup versus 40k, if that makes sense. Because at the minute, you're gonna with 40k they had obviously a whole bunch of TOs who they paid off, like LGT, not LGT, sorry, Frontline Gaming guys, the Nova guy, they just hired him, and all the other TOs. So they got them to rubber stamp it and put that out there in the world, which means like everyone adopted it for like competitive play. But for Age of Sigmar, I don't know who they're going to get to like. I mean, I know a couple of names, but like, I don't know who they're going to get to okay it, if that makes sense. So that's going to be fascinating because all the largest events are run independently. So CanCon is actually an in-house organization with Clinto, and him and Travis spent a fuck ton of time producing a lot of wooden boards. I don't imagine Travis is going to be super happy about having to cut those boards up. Travis is his treasure, by the way, if you guys don't know who Travis is. And then he's based in Australia. And he's living in Canberra. It was around the Canberra area, so it'll be where Mandollies is. Anyway, yeah. I haven't talked about that too much. Oh, watch Ebby, thanks for doing 100 bits. The Realm of Battle boards will make good ablative armor for tanks, to be fair. Those bastards are dense. Yes, they'd be so good for that. My tables were built to be 6x4. My work table will stay 6x4. I completely understand your vibes on that. Can we organise an AOS union? I think we should just organise an AOS union anyway. Get some dues in. I don't know what we'd do with it. Probably just use all the dues to give some charity or something. It's probably the best use of it, to be honest. But yeah. New board size equals selling more Warcry boxes, expansions, stonks, says 3D hexes. Yes, I agree with that. I think that's... it makes sense for them to integrate their own, like, have their own ecosystem. So, like, you want to play Warcry? Cool. Well, here's the upgraded board. And then you buy a couple of these boards, and now you've got yourself a 44 by 60 table, which is what they've done for Kill Team and 40k. So cool. Like, if that's your vibe, that's fine. Smaller boards means less room for all your 10,000 Necron barrels from Kill Team. I think people who work at Games Workshop need a union more than us. Lou Diamonds, I agree. Obviously, unions are great, and people who try to stop unions are bad. That's it. Dues, not Jews. Jews. I said Jews. Jews. With the special rules and movements hitting 40 inches smaller boards are just absurd. Yes. So, I mean, I've obviously been keeping track of the 40k gaming, played some 40k gaming, I've got some thoughts on this. Initially, when you think about smaller boards, you think Deep Strike is better. It's actually worse. It's a lot harder to get your models on the board when the board is much smaller, ultimately. However, movement is massive. A good example would be Vanguard Vets with jump packs in 40k. They're pretty popular, as are like any jump pack infantry, because it flies and it moves 12 inches. So those sorts of units are already good. Can't think of any really fast-moving flying units. They're already good. Get better, ultimately, because they're able to use their movement more than... So teleporting goes down, which is a positive in my world. However, movement and fly are more integral, and that's a bit of a negative. But hopefully they start to point units for that being true. I'm not sure that's going to ever happen, but it could do, right? Sylvaneth players will love smaller boards. Yes, it's rough on Sylvaneth players because obviously they use their terrain pieces to put on. I mean, it's rough on generally Age of Sigmar players because we have terrain pieces on like 40k. So there's less room to put those. Some of those are massive. I mean, ultimately on a smaller board, what the hell are two Idneth Deepkin boats going to be like? Horrific. You know, and I really expect, talk about stonks, I would sell one Idneth Deepkin boat right now, the terrain piece, because surely their book is going to require you to only have one next time that comes around, and not two. I think that's going to be close to true. To be fair, what isn't rough on silver players? Colorado. Good point. Dwarf Penguin, nice to see you. Ruin Beast of Chaos, all you mate. Definitely not because they're all... Can we all just agree that the top identity lists are easy mode Warhammer? Yes, we can all agree. There's no dissent from me, and we're all good with that. The Croak Home will be able to hit everywhere on the board easy. That's a good point. Malk, good point. Croak gets better. AoE damage gets better. That's a really strong point. Really, really good point there, Malk. L. Ron Hubbard. It's so nice to see you. Great work on that weird religion you made. Choo Choo, a lot of Slaanesh players are in it for flowing hair and washboard abs. I'm in it for the Burgermobile. I get you, L. Ron Hubbard. I get you. I'm in for that. The Burgermobile. That's great. Cook isn't that good anyway. I heard it on a podcast, so it has to be true. Rob Kelly, you're correct. You're correct. Whoever said that's probably a genius. It's a Lizardman conspiracy to make the dead frog even better. I'm into it. I mean, actually, the Croak joke aside, thinking about units that will be good, obviously anything that can AoE, so area of effect, is going to be so good. And it does make other units, so it makes things like wholly within 12 inches a little bit, because it's all smaller, right? So your buff range, you're closer, generally. Yeah, I don't like it. I think there should be less movement and more. Yeah. I mean, Marauders will just go from one end of the board to the other. I've just come to terms with it. So, like, and if it doesn't happen, this isn't really how I generally approach life. I normally try and look on the good side. I'm like, look, everything's gonna be fine. Like, let's smash it. We'll have a great time. At the minute, I've set myself. I've decided that it's going to be smaller boards. I think all the evidence points to smaller boards. I'm pretty certain it's smaller boards. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest it's not going to be smaller boards. If they're willing to do it to their largest game, why wouldn't they do it to the game that they can't even be asked to do an FAQ for? Let's be honest. And if it doesn't happen, then I'm over the moon, right? If it doesn't happen, then I'm already expecting it. So, and I've come to terms with it. Yeah. AOS 4 rumour is that you just start in combat. And you have to fight your way out. You start in combat and you just have to fight your way out of combat is AOS 4. Yeah, that's... Oh my god. To be fair, though, you do have to remember most of the rules writers are English. And you are talking about a country who, for many years, their main tactic for fighting was they drew everyone in a line and they walked, not ran, walked the enemy walked their army at the enemy, who was also, for some reason, walking at them, and they would just walk towards each other and shoot. So, they're not that invested in movement being useful at all. AOS 3, smaller boards plus bigger Technado. You win your game, plus you cause draws on the tables next to you. I really like the new board size. Nick, so I would say that the conversation about the board size and coming to terms with it in 40k is a healthy one. Let me tell you about one of the things that I think is a positive, and that ultimately is that you don't have to put as much terrain on the board. Like, you can still make or you can make denser terrain. However, the comparative difference between Age of Sigmar and 40k is that traditionally, not always true nowadays, and maybe not ever super true, but like enough, is that 40k has had always the ability to project power significantly. What I mean by that is, obviously, is that they've had really good shooting units that can shoot very, very far. Not necessarily super mobile units, there are examples of that, but like mainly they've had the ability to project power via shooting quite significantly. Age of Sigmar has always had units that can project power at range. However, we've always had like war machines capped at 4. When Colonel Hunters was released and they had 30-inch shooting, we were all like gobsmacked. So that gives you some indication of like the kind of the low level of it. Things like the bridge is a good example, and all of the many teleports are a good example. And even some of the most dominant shooting that we're seeing in the world, which is skink shooting, is only 16 inches, and it move 8. So yeah, they do have some. I'm not going to hide away from it. They do, and they obviously can teleport. So it's still a significant range. But on a slightly larger board, you can hide, control the board space a little bit. You can do some stuff which I think is useful. And I do think that there is that conversation to have between 40k and Age of Sigmar, in that Age of Sigmar has had a larger... No, 40k has had the ability to project power more over time. Yeah. So, like, I do feel like it impacts Age of Sigmar more than it impacts 40k more. Because in 40k you can still, like, if you had 48-inch shooting, which many a gun would have, you know, like, a smaller board is no real insignificant difference. It makes no difference. Whereas, but I do think one of the positives for 40k was that obviously it made combat better because you were closer, you could jump between those objectives a bit better. I think that's a positive. However, combat's not really an issue for Age of Sigmar. There's already a load of combat happening, so I don't think it needs that boost, if that makes sense. But that's just me. People can disagree all they want, and that's fine, because everyone's allowed an opinion. Do you think 40k is being dominated by the stronger mobile combat units rather than shooting now? Pete agreed. Yes, of course. Because it's an objective-based game now. Like, they're actually learning to play an actual game. Like, but then look at, like, Nick would play. I think it's a much better game because there are objectives on the board, and I think that's positive because I think that means the game's far more interesting. And you also have to beat people off the objectives, as in you have to go and fight people on the objectives in 40k, which means you need combat units to do that. So there is more of that now, right? Oh, the irony that 40k is a better combat game than AOS right now. I don't know if it's a better combat game. I haven't played enough 40k really to fairly comment between the two. But it's an objective-based game now, which I think is way better. I think that's excellent. Sanguinary Guard do move and smash, of course. Sanguinary Guard are a great example. Terminators, really, their veracity has gone up for a variety of different reasons. Combat 100% needs a boost in AOS's Ghillie. Shooting is far too strong at present. But I would say that, yeah, you will get what you want out of... I mean, it's going to be... Think about Kharadron Overlords. If you hate playing them, or if you don't hate playing them, or if you love them, whatever, but they're going to have a tougher time on a smaller board. Their ability to whip up in the air is going to be much reduced on a smaller board. So if you don't like playing against them, that is a positive for you. And that's super useful. Like I said, the teleports, it's a lot harder to get teleporting around. So teleporting into combat, out of combat is going to be fun as well. One of my favourite battle plans in Age of Sigmar at the minute, obviously, is Scorched Earth, and you've got to have a lot of board coverage in units to control that board space. And I actually really like that. I think that's good. Those little gaps become a problem you're trying to solve as you play in the game. But, you know, maybe it won't. We shall see. So that was, I mean, that all came off the conversation about what would I like to see in Age of Sigmar. Would I like to see the secondaries that they have in 40k? That's a great question that I've asked myself. Well done, me. Man, that black paint is so black. Yeah, I know. I think the camera is quite dark as well. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, it looks really nice, this Glesso stuff. So big hype on that. It's looking pretty nice. But I am going to have to paint the insides because it's very blue on the inside. So I'm going to have to do something about that. Can't just be like, oh, look at that dwarf tower that's bright blue on the inside. It looks fucking weird. Maybe, though, I'll just, when I spray it, because I think I'm just going to spray over the top, in like the main feature colour, let's say. So if I do stone, I'll just spray the inside as well. Because I'm using the Glesso stuff as a primer so that it just deals with some of these lines. But I honestly don't know if it's really dealt with them, to be honest. I don't know. I'm not good at this painting to work out. Eric Litter, less room means less tactics, almost less skill-dependent game. Yeah. Maybe a good long conversation could be had another time about it. I'm coming into this in like a casual way. So, yeah, we'll talk about it more if you want. What if for AOS 3 they change teleports to where you show up in your next movement phase instead of the same phase but left the table the same size? Interesting. There's a turn from teleporting to dropping down. I think that makes lots of sense, and that would be cool. I think making it so you didn't get any bonuses to charge off a teleport would also be a bonus. That would be super fun as well, but that would change loads of stuff. Secondaries is the one that they, I think, are going to introduce, but I don't know what that'll look like. And the reason for that is obviously we had auxiliary objectives to get us used to it in the GHB 2020. And they do recognise that at tournaments you do need some sort of secondary objective to pass out a large pack. If you have a lot of players in an event, you do need something to kind of identify who is the real winner, in quotation marks. So I do think that we will see something that will be like secondaries. Not sure what that'll look like or what it'll be, but I do think it'll be something. I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts on that, but I do think that's something that will be baked into the core rules of the game. Obviously, don't forget one of the major changes they made for 40k, which I think they're definitely going to introduce for Age of Sigmar, is obviously 10 points for being battle ready as well. So I think that they might, for some parity, just double up the system. 45 points for a primary, 40.5 points for a secondary. It might be what they do, and it might just be win the primary, gets you the 45 points. And then the secondary will just be some secondaries of whatever they'll be. So they could do that, and then you 10 points for battle ready. I could see that being something that they adopt for Age of Sigmar, ultimately. The house always wins, baby. Lou Diamonds, you're correct. That's true. It's true. But I mean, ultimately, if I can be honest, the thing I'm excited about with Age of Sigmar 3 is that it's in the future. And the reason that I'm excited about the future, see you later, Tommy Butters. The reason I'm excited about the future is so that I can see my friends and play some Warhammer and hang out with you guys. That's what I'm excited about. And I'll never not be excited about that until it happens, because lockdown sucks. I'm just going to say it today. I'm just going to say my truth, which is lockdown sucks, and I'm bored of it. I'm bored of it, and I don't want it anymore. So that's all I've got. It's been lovely talking to you guys. I've gone over time, which is fine. But I've got some things to do. How controversial! I know. Hey Tristan, you might be getting a promotion. Congrats! I hope you get it. Let us know. So yeah, this is the painted tower. So that's taking me about an hour. So Jesus. Not looking forward to having to do boards worth, and I haven't even finished it yet, so it's going to take a long time. But it looks cool. It's cool. It's nice. It's painted up. You guys can see there. I don't know how much better this is than just using a spray can. I can still see the lines pretty clearly. So maybe something to ask some questions of later of some people, because spraying it would be an hour's. I'd have taken 30 seconds, right, if I sprayed it. So that might be what I do in the future. So, yeah, I just spray them. Yeah, I think I might just spray them. Because, I mean, that looks fine. Looks nice. It's a nice matte finish. But, whatever. I use a bigger brush. Buddy, I used a bigger brush and it was just, like, it glooped in the corner. It was awful. Okay. Right, you guys are great. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Do join me again tomorrow. I've got some cool plans for a show tomorrow. I'm not going to, definitely say that's what I'm going to do. But I might be looking at some pairing results for tomorrow. Might be. Okay? You guys are all brilliant. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you loads. Thanks for trying to help us get to partner. Or just, fuck the partner thing. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it loads and loads. It's super fun. We've got a really fun game of 40k on Thursday night where we're going to be doing some live coverage of a match, which I'm looking forward to. So please do join us for that. And thank you, as always, to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. Thanks to everyone for subscribing on Twitch. Don't forget, if you subscribe to either of those, you can win a model that I'll 3D print. And then thank you to everyone who listens live and talks in the chat. Podcast bros, stay hydrated. You're all great. Look after yourselves. And we'll see you soon. Bye.